Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Half Geek, Half Human podcast, where we take time to explore the intersections between technology and life and business and all the fun things in the world. So today I am joined by my co host, Anna Kate Ross. My name is Joey Baggett. It's good to see you guys again. Hopefully, you've been listening along with this season for a while. Today, we have a very special guest. Her name is Jen Spencer. She is the CEO of Smartbug Media. It's a company that's based in California. They're actually 100% remote, but they are an elite HubSpot agency, one of the few in the country, actually. And they've won HubSpot Agency of the Year multiple times. And I think a lot of that is due to Jen's leadership. So there's going to be a lot in this that might be a little bit different than our previous episodes. We talk a lot about marketing here. We talk about her journey, of course, to get to CEO. But we also take some time to talk about podcasting. So Jen has a podcast that she's been doing for a few seasons now. And so we've even been able to take some of her advice and implement it into this. But one thing in these intros that we're talking about takeaways and things that we really liked about the interviews. And so I guess for me on this one, it was really cool to see Jen's story about joining a company after its existence for a few years. And then she quickly moved her way up to CEO of the company. And she's really treated it as her own business as an entrepreneur as she stepped into the CEO role. And I think due to her treating it like it's her own baby, her own business, it's really propelled them into this elite status to where in the HubSpot world, if you talk to anybody that's a partner, they know Smartbug Media. That's how well known they are in the HubSpot ecosystem. So I think it's cool. I think a lot of that is due to her. Really sharp person. But Anna Kate, what do you think? What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I totally enjoyed speaking with Jen, learning more about her background and her current business. And the thing that really stuck with me was how she is a woman who knows what she wants and how to get it. I mean, just from starting up her agency and leveraging HubSpot in a really impressive way, and then really the trajectory of her becoming the CEO of Smartbug, and just knowing where she wanted to take it and how she wanted to grow it and how she's implemented that. And she has the same drive with the way she's developed her podcast, having success with one version of a podcast. And we'll get into this more in a few minutes, but also having some ideas for a whole different kind of spin on it moving forward. So she's just moving really quickly and has just a really strategic mind. So it was a really fun conversation.
Yeah, and you're right. She does. She's done it all quickly, but it almost seems like she's had this business plan in the back of her mind for years. That's like she already knows what she's going to do, and so she's been able to do it quickly. But anyway, we'll let you guys determine that for yourself. So without further ado, everybody, Jen Spencer. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Half Geek, Half Human podcast, where we explore the intersections between technology, business, and life. We are joined today by Jen Spencer. She is the CEO of Smartbug Media. This is one I've been super excited about. I've known Jen for a few years now, off and on, follow her on LinkedIn. But she's been at Smartbug for 5.5 years, and she's quickly climbed from the VP of Sales and Marketing to the CRO to the president to CEO. So welcome, Jen. We're super excited to have you on the show today.
Thanks so much. Looking forward to chatting today.
Anna Kate, I'm going to let you kind of just kick things off with Jen, if you don't mind.
Yeah, awesome. We definitely want to get into the topic of how to become an elite marketer and some of the ways that you help your clients do that. But also, we wanted to start with your journey first. You've had many different roles in marketing, and also as Joey was mentioning, you've had several different roles within Smartbug. How did that come to pass?
Well, so I think it's important to share that I met Smartbug because I was a client of Smartbugs. So I was an fairly early adopter of HubSpot back in 2013. I think in 2012, I was really getting interested in HubSpot. They were starting to kind of lure me in with their inbound marketing kind of strategy and their inbound marketing content. But it wasn't until 2013 that I was working for a company that was prepared to make that kind of investment. And so I went to kind of like build an inbound marketing strategy and bought that technology. And then got to a point where I needed wanted a website built on HubSpot's CMS platform. And that was an important part of my marketing and sales strategy. And I didn't have a developer in house who could handle that kind of development. And so I went to the partner directory with HubSpot and I looked at, well, who was the best? Because I want the best of everything. And the agency that had by far more 5-star reviews than anybody else was Smartbug Media. And so that's how I met the founder and original CEO, Ryan Malone, and the team did extraordinary work. And after, moving on, going through an acquisition and joining a very early stage startup and needing more marketing support, I tapped Smartbug again. So I've known, even though I started working for Smartbug in 2017, I've been associated with the organization as early as 2013. And when I joined the team in 2017, as VP of Sales and Marketing, I told that team, I said, as far as I'm concerned, Smartbug is the best kept secret in the HubSpot ecosystem, and I want to expose that. And so I came in and aimed to do exactly that. And so it was really exciting because it's when do you get a chance in your career to join a company where you are intimately knowledgeable about like the way they function and you are a recipient of the output of like the work that they do. Like, what a dream job for a marketing and sales leader, right? So that was really how it all got started.
Very cool. And then within that journey, you also started the Intelligent Inbound podcast, I think in 2021. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, we've had a couple of podcasts, and honestly, I'm actually meeting with our marketing team to talk about kind of 2023 and what podcasts we want to have, and that sort of season. And so we've had we started off actually with Smartbug on Tap, which was a micro podcast that was like these little short bites of content, like think like somewhere between 5 minutes and 15 minutes. And that was inspired by, I had like a former sales executive I used to work with who said to me, like, I would just listen if you like just to hear like little snippets, like pieces of advice, like what to do in this kind of situation with this kind of a marketing strategy. I would like listen to something like that. That was like really easy to consume. Like, that's a great idea. There's not a ton of micro podcasts out there that are like super tactical. So we wanted to do that. And then Intelligent Inbound was on the flip side to be longer, more in depth. And the first season, we focused on marketing leaders, marketing professionals, and people who were kind of in the trenches. And then this last season, we shifted the focus more to C-level executives, people who ultimately were accountable, right? Like ultimately, like they marketing rolled up to them in some way, shape, or form, but they weren't necessarily the tactical practitioners, because I wanted to have marketing and inbound methodology conversations with executives who are making business decisions for the organization, and expose that audience and give and put those people in a position where they can share with their peers what they've been learning. Because we think about inbound not just as it's not a marketing tactic, it's a methodology to which all other kinds of efforts can like sort of roll up into. It's like a way of acting, a way of thinking, and a way of behaving as a company.
I love that, and I do want to dig in a little bit more to your podcast later, because having listened to a few episodes and the way just like not only who you're interviewing, but the way you interview, I think is so like special, and you do a really great job with it. And just that's going to be good to encourage someone who might listen to this and be like, hey, I wanted to start my own podcast, and it might be able to get some advice from you there. But I do want to ask the question because, again, this being half geek, half human, we can geek out all day, but who is Jen Spencer outside of Smartbug and outside of the podcast?
Who am I? I'm a mom. I have twin boys who are almost 19 years old. I am an animal lover, so I have two dogs that keep. I love spending kind of time with. I love that I work from home. Smartbug's always been 100% remote. We always will be, and so I get to have pet therapy multiple times a day. Um, I love football. I love good wine. I love good scotch. And I love Pilates. And so I'm constantly trying to like activate my mind, activate my body, right? And like voraciously consume books through Audible. And I'm a big fan of spending weekends on the couch with Netflix or Hulu, just taking a load off.
Charging. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a busy life. Uh, but no, that's great. And thank you for that, Jen. So who's your football team?
So Arizona Cardinals live here in Arizona, although my household is also a Broncos household, um, because my husband and one of my sons are obsessed. So they're also a big team in our house. And unfortunately, both teams are having a horrible season. So, in fact, I was laughing because we go to a decent number of Cardinals games and with a group of friends, and every time we go to a Cardinals game, they lose. So we should probably just stop going to the Cardinals games. Maybe they'll win if we don't show up. Um,
I think they've got a lot more problems than just you guys showing up for the game.
I know.
So let's talk a little bit about more about Smartbug because obviously you guys are more than just HubSpot. And if you haven't looked at the Smartbug website, smartbugmedia.com is a really beautiful website, really easy to follow and just work through. And you offer a lot of content too on the website that's just free to peruse. Like you're not having to give away a lot to get it. So, but anyway, so you guys are a HubSpot Elite Partner. You have been for a while. You were last year's HubSpot Partner of the Year, so in 2021. So I guess one of the questions would be if you take the HubSpot equation outside or out of Smartbug, what is Smartbug other than that?
Sure. So we help our clients grow revenue for their businesses. Really, when you think about like why do people come to us, it's on the B2B side, it would be like, hey, marketing drove 10% of sales pipeline last year. And this next year, it needs to be 30%. And we need help with the strategy and the execution of those campaigns to make that happen. Right. So usually there's some kind of a problem like that we're solving. And then we look at, well, what are the tools we have at our disposal, right? What are the different channels? And it's partially content strategy, it's digital strategy, it's developing the assets, making sure your website, for example, is the hardest working member of your sales and marketing team, as I believe it should be, right? So yes, we're using tools and technology like HubSpot, like Klaviyo for our B2C direct to consumer clients, and about 40 other tier two MarTech partners that we work with. I say tier two because our tier ones are truly HubSpot and Klaviyo. All of our clients are using one of those two platforms. But we look at, well, what needs to be done and what is the right mixture of technology and strategy and creative that we can put together to help our clients achieve those goals. So, but typically there's some kind of a revenue target that we're helping those clients achieve.
Yeah, I love that. And you mentioned technology on the technology podcast, so we appreciate that. But because that's a lot of what our companies, I think, both do a really good job with is kind of consulting on not just a single point of technology that is the biggest revenue driver, but the technology that our clients need to be successful and what fits into their stack the best. So it sounds like you guys have a lot of tools. You don't just push HubSpot as the one size fits all solution, but you do consult with the clients on what's going to be the biggest revenue generator to go along with that. So I think that's great. And I was, we were going to talk about more about the podcast next, but I do want to just kind of jump into HubSpot for a second and then back up to the Intelligent Inbound, the podcast. But I want to talk about your journey with HubSpot and I guess how you got to the elite partner status, because we're a HubSpot partner as well. We're a gold partner, so we're very low down on that list, but it is hard to get up to that elite status. So for those organizations that might be listening to this and then say like, hey, we're a HubSpot partner, we want to know what the journey looks like. I know it probably didn't happen overnight. So if you could take a step back into the history of Smartbug, where did the beginning of that journey happen? And then how did it kind of escalate to now it's like, hey, Smartbug is, if you go to the ecosystem, you can't miss Smartbug being at the top of every list because that's where you guys are. So how did it start and how did it kind of work its way up?
Sure. So this predates, me, but I know the story really well. So originally when our founder was trying to find a marketing technology platform to learn, right, and to apply to the clients, clients' businesses, HubSpot seemed to check all the boxes, right, in terms of like, well, what he was seeing clients were needing, and what we were needing to do strategically to support them, and the culture that they were building as a company, and the roadmap and kind of where they were going. And so those pieces, along with some commercial aspects of the partner program, and knowing that you only have so many hours in the day. So to spread yourself really thin and be completely platform agnostic is probably not a viable solution for us at that time, very small agency. So decided to kind of go all in on HubSpot. And when we go all in with a partner, we really truly go all in. So it meant saying to HubSpot, what does it take? What would it take for us to be the number one, like best in class, like partner that you would basically like trust with your life, right? Like what does that look like? And so got that feedback directly from HubSpot of what that looked like in terms of managed services, managed MRR, sold MRR, attach rate, certifications, right? Just really got from them, like, what does it mean for them? And as opposed to saying, hey, new partner, this is what I need out of you, saying, all right, like how can I help you? And then one of the next actions that we took as an agency was to say, hey, I know we're not going to get commission on any of these deals, but your customers that you're most worried about, that you are afraid are churning, that aren't properly adopting your technology, that you want to try to save, introduce us and let's see what we can do. And so that was the first kind of big move that we made as an agency. And it positioned us as being, a step above kind of the rest of the pack. And and of course we had to have the goods, right? Like we had to be able to like actually save those customers. And so it just means like going into that partner. I think what we did is we went into that partnership, like really trying to understand like what value could we bring to HubSpot. And we've tried to really kind of beat that drum all throughout our relationship with them. So we're the ones like listening. Okay, what are you hearing? What are you seeing? How can we be helping you and supporting you? And by doing that, we've been growing alongside them. So I even think about like the last kind of 5 years or so when I've been, involved in the organization, is from my seat outside of Smartbug, outside of HubSpot, I was noticing there was an opportunity for HubSpot to move up market. I was noticing that specifically within the Marketo community, that as I was involved in Marketo from like a technology perspective, I was seeing that they were really gunning for Eloqua. They were really, really, really focused on the enterprise. And it was like, all right, well, that's great for them, right? But wow, there's this mid-market that no one's paying attention to. And this mid-market is growing and has demands, and HubSpot can handle like 80% of what this market needs. And I have a feeling they're building more towards it. And so starting to kind of pay attention to that. And I directed us at Smartbug, I'm sorry, to say like, okay, let's see where we can focus on this mid-market, kind of collaborated with HubSpot on it. And sure enough, HubSpot's got a really strong foothold in that mid-market now, and that's our core customer. So it helped just like being dialed into the market as a tech lover, as a marketer, as like a sales professional, and just kind of connecting those dots, really.
That's really cool. And you've kind of spoken to this a little bit, but well, first of all, so you all are an elite level partner with HubSpot, and last year you won Partner of the Year, which had to feel pretty good after all of that work that you've put into it. But in terms of now, you've helped HubSpot. I mean, would you say you've helped them almost reposition themselves to focus more on this mid-market audience?
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't take credit for that. They're a pretty big organization, but where we've helped is by being really connected to the product managers, product director, like all of the GMs of the different hubs, and providing feedback. And so if I ever have a client or someone in my network who, has a concern, a complaint, they're missing some kind of functionality with the platform, my thought is, okay, who can I share this with? How can I help? Right. So who can I share this information with? Because it's a very, very practical, very specific use case, and just expose that information. So I think there's that. But I've also been pretty vocal within the HubSpot community about verticalization and very specific verticals needing different kinds of experiences inside of HubSpot. And so being able to serve on the partner advisory council and being at the level that we're at, having access to various executives to be able to share what we're doing from a verticalized effort, and what I would like to see HubSpot do, it does feel like a true partnership, right? And we're looking to solve a challenge and take advantage of an opportunity that we frankly see in the market.
Sounds like a lot of networking too you guys have done within the HubSpot organization. And so I guess that's something that we've heard too, like in our, because the way that Atiba got started with HubSpot is that we got brought in, we also do software development. So we got brought in to do some integration work and do some custom integrations, build them from the ground up. And that was our way into the HubSpot partner program. But I guess, could you speak just briefly to the role of networking just within HubSpot and how that has benefited Smartbug? And sorry, Anna Kate, I know you probably had a question, but I heard that and I jumped in. So
yeah, I mean, I think yes, you can like sign partnerships on paper, but they're still human beings that have to connect with each other. And so it's not just like networking, but listening and understanding and finding out, okay, what are the biggest challenges that, let's say, a corporate sales team is having right now, and getting that information and then preparing material, say, hey, here are ways we've been able to help, or here's a tool, here's something that you can use. And if I'm going to say networking with the inbound methodology, right? So like giving. So what we'll do is like, we're doing our Smart Take webinar series where we cover like what's new with HubSpot, because we've heard from our clients, from our networks, that it's hard to keep up with like everything that they're rolling out, because they're constantly rolling something, some new feature, some kind of tool out. And some of it's small, and some of it's pretty darn big. And sometimes the small things, honestly, are the ones that kind of get lost in the shuffle, but can have like a significant impact on the life of a revenue professional, or someone who's administering HubSpot. So we'll make sure that we're inviting sales executives at HubSpot, product leaders, people within the HubSpot world to that, so that they can share with their customers, they can share with their prospects. So just trying to lead by example and create value for them, I think is what's really important. And then the other thing is, I have to add, is making sure we're up on our certifications and accreditations. And so as the HubSpot ecosystem has just grown, the idea of like, well, I'm just going to take a bunch of sales reps out to lunch here, like it doesn't work that way anymore. And we're fully remote, like we're all over the country. And so I don't have, and I'm physically in Arizona. I mean, I'm not right there in Boston, but guess what? Also, like a lot of HubSpotters aren't in that one area as well. So, it's just something that you have to think about, like, well, what is the value that you're able to like provide? Like, how do you show value? How do you show expertise? And HubSpot's laid out the path. They're like, hey, here are all these accreditations. And if you invest in making sure that, proving that you've got the goods to be able to provide these kinds of very specific expert services to our customer base, then we're going to introduce you to those people. So we've made sure to invest in our own education, professional development, and growth, and carve out time for those things, because that pays off in our relationship with HubSpot too.
That's really cool. So let's talk about onboarding of new clients. And when you're getting a new customer starting with HubSpot or with Klaviyo or any of the other kind of second tier tools that you all use, there's just so many ways to attack inbound marketing. Where do you begin?
Well, we attack it depending on what the client needs and what they're looking to achieve, right? So everyone that we meet is coming to us from a completely different place and different starting point, and so it's different. It depends. Are they coming from nothing? Are they coming from a different platform? Most of our clients, frankly, are already on HubSpot, and they've maybe maxed out their own capabilities, or like they're ready to kind of tap someone for more support. But they want to get more out of the platform. And so we're coming in and we're helping refine and accelerate their use of the platform in general. But it all starts with like, what's your ultimate goal? Like, what are you trying to achieve? And then auditing what they have right now, and then looking at, well, what are those gaps, and stack ranking those gaps and going, okay, well, these are the things we think are going to move the needle the quickest for you. And so, because what we find is with our clients, unlike like a very large enterprise practice where you could take a full year or even 2 to set up infrastructure before you press go. Our clients don't have the time for that. They have to like fly the rocket ship like while they're building it. And so we look to be like as agile as we possibly can when we're getting them off the ground.
I think one of our former guests would have loved the rocket ship analogy. But so now I think we've covered HubSpot really well. And actually, the one thing I want to end on is because I know I have a couple of HubSpot follows that I do on LinkedIn. Obviously, one of them is Jen Spencer and Smartbug, because I love the content. Another one is Kyle Jepson, who is one of the inbound professors. I think we all love Kyle. He does every day. He does a video. But is there any other recommendations for someone like us that would be like, hey, this is a good influencer on HubSpot to follow? Anybody that you're like Jen Spencer follows because she loves this person?
I think Christina Garnett. She's more active on Twitter than on LinkedIn, but she's on the community team with HubSpot, and it's not just what she shares, but it's also the community that follows her and that she kind of reshares. So I would definitely get plugged into what she's sharing for sure.
And also don't be afraid to follow Jen on Twitter. She's very active on there too, just at Jen Spencer. But one of the tweets since you mentioned it, I'm going to point it out. It's one of your pinned tweets. It is that 68% of Smartbugs are women, 73% of the managers at Smartbug are women, and then 60% of the leaders at the director level or above are women. And we actually did, and I wish I would have seen this before, because a few episodes ago, we did a Women in Technology podcast, and it was hosted by Anna Kate Soley. We brought in some of our Atibo ladies to just do a podcast about being women in technology, and so it was really cool. So there's just a shameless plug for your Twitter. As we move into our final topic, which is going to be your podcast, or intelligent inbound in general as a topic, but we're going to talk about your podcast a little bit. And so, Anna Kate, I'll let you kind of take it off from the intelligent inbound first question, then we'll just go from there.
Yeah. So obviously there are a ton of podcasts out there. You got into it in 2021. You've already mentioned how, you started out your first season interviewing more of the tactical leaders and kind of getting into the nuts and bolts. And then this season is dedicated all to the CEOs. But how have you set yourself apart within the podcast community with all the content that already exists out there?
Honestly, if you start looking at everything that exists and you wonder, well, what can I do that's going to be relevant, and what can I say? What perspective can I share that's going to be a plus one to like anything else that's out there? I think if I spent too much time there, I would have never gotten started. I would have been like, oh, someone else has it covered, right? So I've just looked at. I've tried to think about it as I've grown in my role. And as I've moved from VP of sales and marketing into like this role now as CEO, and I'm thinking about the responsibilities I have in this role that are different from the responsibilities that I had previously. But the role of inbound and marketing and sales and customer success, it's not easy, right? So when you listen to the Intelligent Inbound podcast and you're listening to the questions that I'm asking these guests, it's because these are questions that I've had myself, right? So they're questions that I know, well, if I've got this question, then there's probably someone else who has it too. And so what I've tried to do is get a really diverse group of people, all different kinds of industries, right? They're not all just like all B2B SaaS, let's say, although I could fill a whole season with those types of people, but just trying to hear from the wellness and senior living community, from the technology community, from financial services, from manufacturing. And what you find is, even though what they actually do and the people they serve are very, very different, a lot of the challenges that they experience every day are very much the same, right? And it's been, and so when I think about like that season, I'm thinking about it not just like, here's just this one episode and what does someone learn in this episode, but the entire season, what is that story that we're telling? And I was thinking about like some, the binge world that we live in, right? With like Netflix series, Hulu series, what have you. And some people will go, this is like a 7-hour movie, right? Like instead of watching these like all like 7 different episodes, the 1-hour episodes, like it's like this is like a gigantic like 7-hour movie. And so thinking about the season that way, I think has been a little different for me. And so it allows me to have this like thread that like I'm weaving through all of the episodes. And this season, it's really been around like authenticity and around brand promise and what you mean to your customers. And it's just been really relevant, especially during a year that's had some economic turbulence for so many of our listeners.
And what would you say for someone maybe who is getting into podcasting in the beginning? Have there been any lessons learned or anything that you would do differently, or any advice that you just give to someone just starting out?
Yeah, I would say to whatever. Even I've been doing this for a number of years because I hosted a podcast my last company I was at, Allbound, it always takes longer than you think. So whatever time frame, whatever runway you give yourself, it's going to take a little bit longer because life happens, right? And focus on the quality of the content more than the frequency or the 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 necessarily like the speaker, like not like don't be like micro like obsessed with getting a certain kind of a brand, right? But just think like what's the quality? What's the quality of that content? Because that's what gets shared. That's what is going to get listened to, get utilized by your customer success team, by your sales team. It's what's going to be spread from like person to person as they're listening. Something that's really, really helpful. So, couple little pieces of advice there.
No, that's and we've learned a lot too in this process. This is our 8th episode, and what we've been doing is we've been recording them, and just we have a bank of these episodes, and then so we've got the full season 1 now done, and then we're going to start releasing them. But it's just that there has been a lot of time dedicated to it, and especially on the front end. There's a lot that's you try to get everything just right. You try to be organized. You try to set up your SharePoint and be ready, but honestly, for us, one of the big things is just get out and do it. Just start and start building up this portfolio, and then you get better as you go. And although with yours from the first episode, I was like, man, they've got this down. But for us, you'll see a little bit of a upswing. And what is your goals? And I know this is yours, like ours, is a podcast kind of powered by Smartbug. Ours is powered by our company, Atiba. So what is the goal for the future of this podcast? What do you see, I guess, a year, 2 years, 3 years down the line? What do you want to see out of it?
Well, if I can reframe, change your question a little bit, I want to see us having multiple podcasts. So I actually want, rather than dilute one kind of show with covering too many topics, I want to see us have multiple podcasts that focus on different areas of the businesses that we serve. That's reflective of our own growth as an organization. And so that's something that I'm actively talking about with our marketing team right now. So that's one of like the sort of structural sort of goals of it. But it's also to ensure that we don't just do something for the sake of doing it, right? That we are really like thinking about, okay, what kind of value is this providing? What's the feedback that we're getting? How is this influencing, how are these episodes influencing the leads that we're getting, the conversion of customers, our growth of our existing customers? And if it's not, then is it really something we should be doing? Because there's only so many hours in the day, right? So the quality has to be really, really strong. Quality over quantity for sure. And yeah, so it's not just what I want for this podcast. I have visions of multiple different types of shows, and I want to involve more people from within Smartbug, because we have a lot. We have almost 200 really, really brilliant marketing, creative, development, and strategic professionals who have some pretty cool things to say.
Spoken like a true CEO. That's a great answer. We're not just going to make this podcast more successful. We're going to have multiple podcasts. I love that.
Yeah, we did that too. We involved our people, and it's so much fun to build that camaraderie, especially at Atiba. We're fully remote too. So it's when you're not seeing these people daily, it does get kind of tough. So that is another way to kind of build up the internal, the stock of your company. So, well, I think that's all great. And I want to wrap up today with just saying, Jen, like, do you want to give some information about how to reach Smartbug, about how to listen to the Intelligent Inbound podcast, about how to follow you on social medias?
Absolutely. So smartbugmedia.com. As Joey mentioned, we have so much content. We give away so much great information in our blog, in our resource library. One of my favorite things that we do is we create lots of tools and templates. So if you're looking for a pitch deck for how to get more budget for your marketing program, if you're looking for a financial analysis tool for your campaigns, if you're looking for something to use to evaluate technology stacks, like we probably have it before you actually start staring at a blank Excel spreadsheet or PowerPoint presentation. Start with Smartbug's resource library. We probably have something for you. So I would encourage you to go there. And I'm on LinkedIn, Jen Spencer, Smartbug Media. Just let me know if you connect with me that you heard the Half Geek, Half Human podcast. That way I just have a little bit of context for how, we're coming to meet each other. But a lot of really great planning tools for market, especially for marketing professionals on the Smartbug Media site.
Awesome. And we'll drop some of those links into the show notes for the episode too, so folks can find it easily. But Jen, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate all the insights you shared. And thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
You've been listening to Half Geek, Half Human.